Alpacas is on the
Necrozma
Necrozma
deck
deck,
again.
and this is against Decidueye, Vileplume.
Yeah, so I'd say this is a pretty good matchup as long as the Decidueye player is forced to play some item cards. But Alpaca's hand is not very good.
Not very good. Um, and we do see the actually I think this was the correct Oddish. I think it was Poison Powder. I remember this was like the optimal Oddish to play when it dropped in Burning Shadows. Um, Logan
Well,
Mana,
this one's
thank
only
you for
got
the
50
follow.
HP. I can't remember if the other one had 50 as well.
I
Oh
think
yeah,
it
they
did
all
as
have
well.
50.
They do all have 50,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the absorb one might actually be better. Well, it's hard because so the thing with the with basics is like you want them to survive as long as possible. So having like if your opponent does like 20 damage to your oddish, or well, I guess yeah, having 50 HP it doesn't really matter, but the healing Ralts, that one's definitely the best one because if your opponent does like 30 damage to you with anything, like you can heal and then survive, but like a first impression for 30 into a first impression for 30, very irrelevant things, but
Wow, but not the best turn, and actually just a beacon right off that too. Alpacas just had the enhanced hammer to take the energy off the Dartrix, 2 DCEs down, 2 VS Seekers for Alpacas. This is not the best start on either side, but a lone Trubbish with a Floatstone is definitely not what you want to be seeing. Um,
yeah, at least Alpacas has that N again to disrupt the beacon. Um, I assume he'll probably choose to play that over the Sycamore. Yeah, having any chance of surviving another Vileplume could be uh, getting another turn without the Vileplume could be huge.
yeah, and again, just the long think off this beacon. I don't. I think actually, just speaking about the pre-evolutions too, wanted to finish that point because I think the gloom that is currently on Moro's um, bench, if I'm remembering correctly, I think the one from Ancient Origins actually had a 1 retreat cost, but this one has a 2 retreat cost. So just a small little nuance. I might be misremembering, but I definitely noticed this one had a 2 retreat cost, and I don't think the other one
Yeah,
did. But
that's correct. It only has a one retreat cost. Yeah, these are the types of things that we think about when we have to evolve our Pokemon.
yes,
When the EXs come out, we're gonna be spending hours debating over which Magnemite is best to evolve into the Magnezone EX.
and frankly,
Which
that is
Riolu,
yes, that
yeah.
is the best thing about Pokemon. I think is being able to evolve them and use those nuances like you're talking about. And also, it's relevant to point out that while we're talking about evolving them, we do also talk about devolving them with Espeon EX. It won't really matter too much because I think the HP was about the same for the different options we were talking about. But and Mauro hitting Alpacas with the N here. I don't think the hand changed too much. I think it was like a teammates was the only good supporter, the only supporter on either side of that N. So um, if we do see a KO, but I don't even think that's very likely.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
Yeah, and it's another beacon.
I think this turn is probably just going to be a retreat into the Tapu Koko and pass. We could see the Black Ray GX though, although it'll only. I think Alpacas will want to save that for when the second Decidueye comes down. Maybe just attaching to the Necrozma to prepare for it, or we could see the Trash Avalanche. I don't know how much damage or how many item cards are in the discard. There's only one, so yeah. I like this play, just putting the Tapu Koko active, letting it soak up damage for another turn. Although that Alolan Ninetales will be able to snipe, start getting damage on the bench and actually knock out one of these Trubbishes. Um, if there's a double colorless energy that comes down.
Yeah, the Ninetales is a really, really good addition to the Vileplume deck. Um, because you can snipe around something, you can, Guzma something and stick it in the active and then do that 50 snipe in combination with the feather arrows to put a lot of pressure, especially against these Trubbishes. You can just start picking them off with one feather arrow and a the snipe attack. I think it's Ice Blade. So another thing that's good to note here is that both of these Trebushes have tools on them already. So if Alpacas is able to draw into that Garbotoxin Garb and turn off the Vileplume, they will be actually have access to those items back. But we do see the DCE coming down.
Double colors. And another thing that's going to come up here very soon is that if we see a Black Ray GX, Ninetales is going to be able to Ice Path GX to move all that damage onto the Necrozma and finish it off with the Feather Arrow. Yeah, so that's really rough. The Necrozma won't be able to survive from anything else.
And this is
the enhanced hammer,
though. But there's no support, like there's no follow-up to this. I mean, I guess you are going to Black Ray here into maybe a Prismatic Burst, but you're getting no value out of this item lock, or the ability lock, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a tough choice. I think the Alpaca should put the choice band. Actually, it probably won't matter, but it would matter. Putting the choice band on the active would make the Necrozma go down easier from the ice path. So I like saving it.
Yeah.
Although putting it on maybe a Trubbish would have been the second Trubbish might have been, or the Tapu Koko might have been. It probably doesn't matter anyway. A Field Blower would come down, shut off items. Yeah.
Stellar, this is game 1, and yes, Vinny did actually an update from the other matches in top 8. Vinny's opponent actually did not show up, so Vinny just got a free, with the Mega Scizor deck, did actually get a free pass into top 4. So we will be seeing at least one Mega Scizor deck in top 4 guaranteed. Let that sink in. One of the 2 in top 8, folks. One of the 2 Mega Scizors in top 8 is guaranteed to be in top 4. Could we be seeing a Scizor mirror match in the finals? Stay tuned to find out.
Yeah, this is pretty big here as well. Trapping this Garbodor active. That's always the trouble with putting a choice band on it. And even if a Field Blower comes down, that would turn Vileplume back on. So the only way to move this Garbodor is going to be either attaching to it or finding a Guzma. Or an Acerola, of course, if it's damaged. But
an offensive bomb. Could we build up to that?
It's possible. I think unlikely, but it's possible.
We could see it. Offensive bomb for 90 and some mixture of status conditions. Could be interesting, but yeah, this is definitely not likely to actually attack with offensive bomb. But yeah, this is right where Decidueye wants to be. There's a Garbodor stranded in the active. I think I have to assume they took back Field Blower off the Hollow Hunt if they don't already have access to it.
I don't know if they had a Field Blower in the discard pile. I only saw a Guzma in there that could be useful, but if they played a Field Blower, definitely that would be the choice.
The other thing here is that you could, if you can find a way to move the Decidueye out of the active, you could actually go into that Ninetales with a DCE and then start working on maybe that other Trubbish, or you could Guzma the Trubbish, yeah. The only difference with this situation, though, is I think why you wanted to leave the Garb in the active was that there's no single attach retreat option. Well, the Acerola is a good find, though.
No way to move the Trubbish, though. This is the downside of playing basic Psychic Energy. You can't do the cool Acerola play.
And actually, the other thing about bringing up this this Trubbish is that it actually opens up Acid Spray options, where you could actually get rid of this DCE. I don't know how many are left for Mauro here, but you know, that might be some prize or something like that. But the Acid Spray, you could save the choice band. You could Acid Spray for 40 if you want to. But yeah, the Acid Spray is the choice here. And it's a heads.
It's rid of the energy. Wow.
And I believe the Hollow Hunt was used for one of those cards was to get a DCE back. So it's very possible that they don't have a replacement DCE this turn. They do have a big hand, but now they're forced to play item cards. So... and it's also relevant to note as well that the Hollow Hunt was used, which means the Ice Path from Ninetales is no longer an option. So this damage on the Ninetales, barring an Acerola, will stick.
Yeah, an interesting thing that this opens up for the next turn as well is a choice band could come down on the Necrozma, and we could see well if some damage comes on the Trubbish, then an Acerola into the Necrozma, and the Prismatic Burst could take the knockout now. Um, I think I think it needs the no, never mind. It doesn't need the 10 damage, but anyway, that could be something we see next turn if
Actually,
this
wouldn't it need the? It would need the
Ninetales stays.
10,
Yeah.
wouldn't it? It does exactly 100 with the choice band, unless there's an additional psychic added. But I think it does
Oh yeah,
70
true. It does
currently.
need. Yep, it needs exactly. So that acid spray 10 damage could be coming in clutch here.
Hugely relevant. But just a pass, so no
Yeah, and
damage. But the
here it
float
comes. That
stone,
acid
wow.
spray or the prismatic burst could take the knockout here. That'd be pretty big, I think.
Yeah, but it's kind
But
of
also
tough
the
though. Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, I guess you kind of have to, but like your follow up beyond this isn't much because like this, if this Necrozma goes down, I guess you do have the Trash Avalanche. I'm not sure how much damage it's doing, um, but you do need
there'll
the
be another
prizes.
item card in the discard pile for it. So
True.
I think it's building. It's getting there. The prize card's huge though with that Tapu Lele. If that choice belt ever gets bumped off the Garbodor, that Tapu Lele can come down and find a supporter card.
Yeah, it's a good insurance plan to have that if if that Garbotoxin is turned off, that you have access to a supporter with the Tapu Lele. Hazy Cats, thank you for the raid. Welcome in, Raiders. We are in top 8 of Riley's Retro number 2, playing the 2017 Worlds format. We're currently watching PAckofAlpacas as the 8 seed taking on Mauro. Game one still. Game one still. We've had some very interesting plays so far. We just saw an acid spray for 10 damage that turned out to be hugely relevant. So stick around for this one. We're having some fun here, and we are joined by the illustrious Jake Gearhart. So enjoy your stay. Thank you all for coming in, and thank you Hazy for being here.
Yeah, this is a very interesting position because the an Espeon would be huge here. So Alpacas has an option to field blower his own Garbodor, shutting himself off from items, and then go try digging for that Espeon EX. But I think playing it safer just by attacking with the Tapu Koko is going to be the best line of play here. Uh, just get more damage in play, so maybe Trash Land can start picking up a knockout on these Decidueyes for
Mm-hmm.
2 prize cards.
And I like this flying flip as well. Just working in as much damage as you can. This Rowlet, there's been a lot of energy used, and the Acerola's gone. A Guzma could be used to get this Rowlet out of the active, but taking the chance to kind of jump on the opportunity, and of course, as I say that, there is the rainbow immediately found, but just a tackle.
Tackle, wow.
And you have to think this Garblock, the Garbotoxin lock, is doing work here. I don't know what's in Moro's hand, but you have to think that being ability locked is not helping.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this another flying flip could be very, very, very bad. I think even if we see one more flying flip and this takes a knockout, then I think maybe that Tapu Lele field blower play is actually the way to go to try and find Espeon and bench it before you get end out of the possibility. Um, there's a Shaman EX to the hand, but that doesn't work with the Garbodor still around. There's the field blower, so
And I think this was the 7th item, if my really quick count was correct. And yeah, the Shaman is found. I think again the Garblock was hugely important to keep that Shaman from coming down previously. I didn't quite get to count, but I believe it was 7 items in there. So that is enough currently to take out any of these GXs that are currently in play. There's not a single Pokemon on Moro's board that can survive even just the 140 damage from Trash Avalanche currently. But like you said, the flying flip here puts so much pressure on the board. I mean, that's 2 Rowlets that go down. I even think if you can just bench the Espeon and attach to it. And another Acerola. Okay, so that definitely changes things a little bit. Able to just go right back into a Decidueye, healing off that 150 damage and saving the Rowlet in the active, and being able to take a KO here. This is huge.
Yeah, that's very big. This Decidueye will be able to survive de-evolution at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So the Espeon's not as strong for sure.
Stellar, I have actually met Jake in person. I can confirm Jake is a real person. There are some doubters in chat who do not believe you are real, Jake, but rest assured, Jake is a real person.
I could be based on a real person
Yes.
talking to you right now. I could still be an AI that because Jake is obviously a very busy person and he's a programmer, so he's made me to be his replacement in situations where he needs to do two things at once.
That is just such an on-brand. That's just such a Jake thing to say. My God. Okay, so we see this basic Psychic attached to the Mewtwo. Mewtwo's actually not a horrible attacker in this situation. It can put out some pressure on any Pokemon with energy on them. Not a ton, but where you're able to kind of set things up for Espeon de-evolution knockouts. Could put some pressure in there. And it's also not really in risk of getting gusted as much because you can actually just attach to it again. But this hand off the end for Alpacas is not looking too hot.
Yeah, I think we could actually see Mewtwo's barrier attack. Yeah, it works. Mewtwo's barrier attack could be important next turn to buy a turn, preventing all effects of damage done to it. But here we see the big Garbodor getting trapped on the active again. This could be very disastrous if Alpacas can't find a Guzma. And at this point, he doesn't want to play a Guzma. He wants to play a draw supporter to find some Espeon or something else. So, yeah, this is pretty rough.
Yeah, Vinny, they actually could not attach the Floatstone because there is item lock in play. Yeah. And it's really interesting because it keeps going back and forth from item lock to ability lock, and that interaction is really, really interesting. But we go right into game 2. Alpaca's packing it up. Do you get to go into game 2 here? Have to imagine that Alpacas will be going first, and that's what we see. Solid
opening the
hand.
Tapu Koko is pretty big. That can put on a lot of early pressure. Gets the Trubbish down. And we could see, like, if we can get a Floatstone on this Trubbish as well, that would be very, very important. Mm-hmm. Just giving an option to bail out from the item lock.
Good to see Necrozma and Espeon both in deck. Those are key cards in the matchup. I believe Garbotoxin was in there too. I didn't quickly get to check for that, but I have to imagine it was in there as well. No Floatstone found though. That's huge.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate. I wonder if we'll see this Ultra Ball, gets played. Maybe even to find a second, find that, Garbotoxin, Garbodor, get it in the hand before the item lock comes down.
Absolutely makes sense.
But I'm not sure if actually this was the best decision, because if the item lock does come down, well, if the item lock came down, then you wouldn't be able to use the Garbodor anyway. So Ultra Balling for it doesn't really mean anything. Yeah.
I guess it does at the very least thin out the Ultra Ball out of the deck, because if you're getting item locked, you probably don't want to see the Ultra Ball anyway.
That's
Justin,
true, yeah.
Thank you so much for the follow. Thank you. Wish TCGI properly supported the other first turn rules, so pass weren't necessary. You are preaching to the choir. Yeah, we do not want to be having these tournaments with the pass, and we were talking about it earlier with Andre playing the Golisopod deck. That the Wimp Out doesn't work because you don't get to have a first turn, so it's very, very annoying that we have to do that. But we work with what we've got. This is definitely the client that is very easy for people to follow and familiar for people who might be unfamiliar with the format itself. So we make do with what we got for sure. Couple awkward situations here, though. Not a single green Pokemon was found for Mauro, and they had to beacon for Oddish Gloom. And then Alpacas just did nothing. I mean, they did get the Float Stone down, which is noteworthy for sure, but I think they also field blurred that Force of Giant Plants, but the replacement was immediately found. Not a lot going on.
Alpaca is also sort of getting punished for not attaching that basic psychic energy to the Tapu Koko. While there are 4 double colors in the deck, like his last hand had a bunch of psychic energies in it, so it might have been better to just keep the hand and then ensure the Tapu Koko attack, and also making it more likely to draw an energy off his end. But we'll see if that psychic energy on the Trubbish pays off later in the game.
And great finds off the Sycamore, an entire Decidueye evolution line. Love to see that if you're Mauro.
And only 2 item cards going to the discard pile, unfortunately, which is leaving us Trashalanche Garbodor without being able to deal much damage.
And all of this tempo that Alpacas is losing, although they do top deck the Sycamore, which is huge, but all this tempo that they're losing in these awkward turns, these awkward like middle turns where they're not doing much, is just benefiting the Decidueye player more, being able to establish more of their board with these beacons, just putting a lot of pressure just by having all of these, Pokemon in play. And we just see Rake going for the Trashalanche, doesn't even take a KO.
Yeah, this psychic energy attachment on the Trubbish instead of the Tapu Koko is definitely hurting at this point. We could have had 2 flying flips at this point, but now we're only stuck with just a Trashalanche for 40. This will put the Vulpix in range for a flying flip on the next turn, but it'll be difficult to move the Garbodor and get a flying flip in the same turn, if not impossible, I think.
Well, and that's the exact scenario I was about to bring up, is that like moving into this Garbodor is great, but now you're kind of like forced to attack with it. You don't have a Guzma in hand. You can't Float Stone retreat it. I guess you could, hard retreat it with a DCE at some point, but that seems horrible. And you're only hitting for what, 40 damage? Like, I understand wanting to put a little bit of pressure out, but and then we see the psychic attack.
Finally see the psychic on the Koko, and then we draw right into 2 double colorless energy. Of course, that always happens
every time. At least though the double colorless gives you the option, because I think what could happen here is Mauro could effectively just ignore this Trashalanche Garb for the time being, go into the Ninetales, use Decidueye's Feather Arrows and the Ninetales to snipe around it and take out that Trubbish on the bench so Garb lock cannot happen, and kind of ignore the Trashalanche Garb. The, of course, way that then Alpacas could do anything on the following turn would be with that double colorless. So finding the double colorless at the very least ensures you can Acid Spray next turn. It's a little bit more damage. You could remove energy from play and hopefully buy yourself some turns to get a little bit more going on. And a Sycamore was found off this Lele, so maybe there's some items in hand getting discarded. I think I saw 1. 2.
Does look like a few items in the discard pile, but I think we might be seeing a Hollow Hunt GX this turn that could take all the items out of the discard pile just to continue, again, putting this Garbodor in a position where it's not doing anything.
Yeah, there's 3 items in the discard pile exactly. Hollow Hunt gets you 3 cards. I mean, we could be seeing a game where Trashalanche for 0 is a thing.
Yeah, then we're on to the Acid Spray for a while.
But if we do see the Hollow Hunt, as you were suggesting, and it takes back those 3 items, this Acid Spray potentially getting heads and knocking off the Rainbow Energy could be huge. Maybe it strands the Decidueye for a turn or 2. It definitely pushes it out of range of being able to attack next turn. We could obviously see an Acerola into the Ninetales next turn to get around that.
I think the best case scenario right here is a Garbotoxin Garbodor would be a huge top deck right here. Let's see if we get well, if we did get a Garbotoxin Garbodor, that Enhanced Hammer could come down. The N from the VS Seeker could disrupt the item cards that were just
No
gone back.
toxin.
Yeah, none yet, and no heads
Ninetales.
on that acid spray. Yeah. Second Decidueye comes down. The active Garbodor, if no double colorless is found, it'll still go down in two attacks or two turns from the double feather arrow. But the opponent could also choose to just go after the Trubbish on the bench. We do see the Garbotox and Garbodor now finally in Alpaca's hand, which can give him access to item cards. That choice belt can come down on maybe the Tapu Koko. It probably wouldn't matter there, but could come down on the Trash Lunch active or the benched one, setting it up for later in the game.
Yeah, I think being able to just at least stop the bleeding a little bit with the toxin found here, it at least pushes the active Garb out of range of just a double feather arrow ping. To take multiple prizes next turn potentially.
Yeah,
And the follow-up
interesting
end too.
choice not to attach to the Necrozma GX. I think I would have liked to see an energy come down on that Necrozma, threatening the Black Ray GX to put a lot of damage on the opponent's board because the Espeon's right there. But getting a second Trash Lance Garbodor, it'll be good later in the game, but for the immediate future, there's very little item cards in the opponent's discard pile. Only one. So Trash Lanch on the bench will only be doing 50 with that choice belt, which is not going to be enough to do much at all.
We do get
Yeah,
heads
won't
though.
even be. Yeah, the heads is very very good here. Will force some feather arrows to come down if this Garbodor is going to get knocked out, which means finding a field blower first as well to get rid of the Garbotoxin.
It still just feels like it's a matter of time before Mauro draws into an Acerola. I think there are at least two in the list that we've seen in the last game. So it does feel like a matter of time, but we do get the pass though, and attachment of the bench, but we are out of range of taking the KO with the acid spray. Again, I'm not sure there are any other items in the discard pile. I don't think any have been played since the Hollow Hunt. So
there's only one in there.
And you have to think that, honestly, I think, and the Guzma is definitely a good line to take here. I was wondering if maybe if the acid spray comes down and puts the Decidueye up to 220, the Acerola that would follow after that could be crippling.
Yeah, I think this play is definitely great here. The 10 damage from the rainbow energy plus the acid spray puts the Decidueye at 80, which means that once it's devolved from Espeon GX, it'll get knocked out because Dartrix has 80 HP.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So
and also you remove the energy too.
Yeah, this is threatening a huge turn, huge next turn. Alpacas can Sycamore into Psychic Energy, a double colorless, retreat the active Garbodor, and just devolve both Decidueye, leaving the opponent with no Decidueye in play.
So an interesting point, and we see the card in hand right now, the Ninja Boy. So when you were talking about attaching, wanting to see a Psychic attached to the Koko, I actually kind of forgot that the Ninja Boy was in this deck, because we could have seen a situation where you attach the energy to Koko, and then surprise out of nowhere you have the option to Black Ray with Ninja Boy into Necrozma. You could even stack Psychic Energy on it because it's unlikely that your opponent chases it proactively. So yeah, I really would have liked to have seen, I know this was many turns ago now, but you really would have liked to have seen the Psychic Energy go on the Tapu Koko several turns ago, but we do see the Acerola and the Espeon devolve here, so this is a huge turn of events, a huge swing here for Alpacas, taking out both Decidueye, taking 2 prizes. That's huge.
Yeah, this is very big. But one thing that Alpacas did, which he could get really punished for here, is he didn't play the VS Seeker. So if the opponent is able to find a field blower to get rid of these tools and turn back on the Vileplume's item lock, Alpacas could be stuck here. But his hand is pretty good. This Ninja Boy can could put the Espeon back in the deck, get out a Necrozma GX, which could get a Blackray going right away.
Yeah, the Ninja Boy opens up so many interesting lines. It also just preserves that Espeon for later, takes it out of harm's way. Um, Looks like we are going to see another Decidueye come down immediately. But yeah, that's a huge point. Not playing that VS Seeker could certainly come back to hurt alpacas. Looks like a handful of Pokemon evolutions and a Sycamore. So the hand was actually fairly playable. That was a pretty live hand. And I still don't think there were that many items played either. I think it was just an Ultra Ball or two. I think I only saw like 2 items in the discard pile still. Let's see. Yeah, just the 2 Ultra Balls. 2 items in the discard pile. So... Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Oh, that was such a bad top deck.
No.
The worst card in the deck to top deck. Wow.
Yeah, there's no way to put it back, really. I mean, I guess there's no way to, like, discard it and stretcher it back into the deck out of this hand. That is so brutal. Wow. Oh my god.
Yeah, that completely changes what's this game. That would have put him in such a great position, but yeah, I don't know. This Ninja Boy can't really find anything useful. We could see. I mean, I think still, if there's a Trubbish in the deck, just getting the Trubbish, like swapping the Espeon into another Trubbish just to start putting on a little bit of trash lands pressure. But this Guzma is also a pretty good play here, although it leaves alpacas with a pretty dead hand. Yeah, we're gonna see another acid spray. If this one gets heads, yeah, tails. Okay. This game is still gonna go on. Yeah, there's so many energy in the discard pile already. Only 10 cards left in the deck, I'm sure. Yeah, wow, an Ace Roll as well.
I was just gonna mention
this
that
Tapu Lele
too.
is gonna be able to take a knockout. Yeah, that was a very big swing.
Finny, I don't know what that which interaction that was in reference to, but put that thing back where it came from, or so help me. Could definitely apply to that Necrozma draw for sure. Yeah, a really good turn from Mauro there. I mean, again, it's super unfortunate that the Necrozma was drawn. I think that would have very much been, I mean, I don't want to say game over necessarily, but it would have been very huge. But we can pull it off this turn, Ultra Balling away the Necrozma and Rescue Stretchering.
Double top deck saving.
Yes,
the Necrozma to the Ultra Ball top deck later.
We do need switching cups for sure. That would have been or a Rangaroo. Primate Wisdom would have been hugely helpful there. But this is the next best thing. But now the problem becomes, you're offering up another 2 prizes. You're at the mercy of getting end. You do put out a lot of pressure with this. I don't think this Necrozma doesn't really seem like it's in danger necessarily. I don't think there's anything, even with another DCE, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is only doing 140.
We could see a Field Blower Choice Belt Feather Arrow would take the knockout with another double colorless, but that's a lot to ask for.
Not in that order, though. Not in that order, though.
Yeah, not in that order.
Yeah, so we would have to see the Choice Belt first while you have access to items because of Garb. Then you have to put the Field Blower to activate the item lock once again by turning off the Garb and getting rid of that Floatstone. I've definitely seen some people make, very simple mistakes in mis-sequencing like that. But Ace Roll is a great find. I think, I was just thinking about the fact that there are the 2 Ace Rolla in this list that hadn't seen any play up to this point. So finding them at pretty good times for Mauro. Being able to just totally heal that Decidueye.
At least this Prismatic Burst is going to be able to knock out the Tapu Lele if it stays active. I'd almost like to see a retreat into the Vileplume this turn instead of putting the 100 on, because it doesn't really do that much. It threatened to knock out on the Necrozma, but Alpacas is getting really far ahead here. He's only needs 1 prize card left. That Ninetales is in de-evolution range from the Espeon. Yeah, I think this was a big misplay, leaving that Tapu Lele active. because now that Espeon is just checkmate on the board if it doesn't get knocked out.
And it's really, um, the damage lining up perfectly to take that 170 in the Lele. Prismatic Burst doing exactly 70 after the Black Ray for exactly 100. Love to see the math lining up like that. But yeah, that's a great point. I'm not sure if Mauro has access to an N this turn. But even then, it can't really do anything
And
to heal
and
the
and would lose the
Ninetales.
game. The yeah, it has to be a Guzma. Yeah, I think that just seals the game. The Espeon comes up,
Yeah.
devolves the Ninetales, and that's it.
N to 1
And to
into
one into the
Sycamore.
Sycamore.
But yeah, that will
Yeah,
just be game. As long as Alpacas sees the line, that should just be game. They do
yeah. I'm
promote the
pretty sure
Espeon,
the
so
only
yeah.
Pokemon with energy in play is gonna come up and use its attack.
We do have to watch the entire 6 years of this animation before game. Wow, and also I didn't even notice with the top deck of a second Sycamore off end to one.
Sycamore. Yeah. At least we're not dealing with Dusknor boundaries
Yes.
crossed right now. That for game
Oh god.
takes forever.
I think the advantage favors Moro in this being able to go first, being able to, hopefully have an explosive first turn, um, and get into your Decidueye, get into your Vileplume. It is worth noting there are only 10 minutes left in this top cut round. So we are playing this just the same as the in-person events, the top cut events are played. So once time is called, um, this is game 3, so it will go down to the 3 turns after time is called, and then if it is still tied at that point, if there's still no winner, it goes to the next prize wins. So definitely
I believe
something
it's
to
whoever is
consider.
ahead on prize cards
Um,
win.
is it? I thought it was
Uh,
if they're tied after turns, it goes to
if
the
they're
next prize.
if they're
Yeah,
tied after turns, yeah, it goes
yeah.
to whoever becomes ahead on prize cards first. Um, so yeah, the game would continue. That came up last week in my the team challenge that I skipped your last week's tournament for. In the uh yeah, it was lots of Palkia games in Top Cut that went to time, and
Yeah.
we were all figuring out who would win.
And Riley's retro number 1 actually came down to that exact situation, so could see it here. But really relevant to notice two things. One, that the Espeon EX was started for Moro, which is not great. It could be useful later, but right now it's very not what you want to see in the active. It is Psychic Weak. Doesn't really do anything in the early game. But also something to notice was that Alpacas did have the Float Stone in their opening hand before the end, so getting that end away, they might not have access to it. And this hand currently has Garb and 2 Rescue Stretchers in it. So they might not even have access to Garbotox in this game.
Yeah, facing down that turn 1 item lock.
And there's the turn 1 item lock too. Yeah. Um,
This Espeon, if the energy stays on, actually could be very relevant because the second attack will take the KO on the Trubbish
it
where
will,
nothing
yeah.
else would.
Not
But that
anymore.
acid spray flip.
We have seen more acid sprays this series. Um, yeah, lots of acid sprays, and it's interesting to notice too, with the Vileplume being put in play. Obviously, game 3 of top 8, you want to rush out to the advantage as much as you can, but it might have cost Moro here because they didn't have any out to Decidueye pieces clearly. So not sure what their follow up is going to be, but what cost did it come to get that Vileplume in play? Doesn't seem like their hand had a ton of options anyway. I can't imagine that last card in hand was a terribly relevant piece. But you never want to be Guzma and your opponent's free retreat Pokemon into the active, and this flying flip is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, if we can see a double colorless out of the opponent and like they need a lot to put on. Yeah, the Professor Sycamore is pretty huge here though. If there's a Ninetales, I guess the Ninetales is in the discard pile already. I think they only play one Ninetales GX.
It could
So we
Hollow
could
Hunt
have
it
seen a
back.
knockout. Yeah, that's true. We could have seen a knockout on the Trubbish on the bench
Mm-hmm.
with the Feather Arrow, but That's not going to happen this turn.
You know, and I think in looking at the way that Moro played their last turn, that last card that they had in hand, I think I feel very confident in saying that that was probably the Sycamore, that they had the option to Guzma and not play the Sycamore and take the kind of safer route in getting the guaranteed Decidueye evolution pieces before Sycamoring, obviously without having access to items. Um, it's not likely that you would get your Decidueye evolution pieces off of that Sycamore. So really, really heads up play. Again, getting the full evolution line, kind of taking a slower approach. But I think that's something that a lot of players don't always see the option. They kind of wanted to say, just I'll draw all the cards that I can. But that was kind of more of like a guaranteed way of getting the pieces. Another acid spray, though, is not what Alpacas wants to see.
That's rough. That acid spray really need to be heads here. I think it was the right play going into that Trubbish. You just got to deny
Yeah.
attacks as much as you can. Flying Flip isn't really getting you anywhere in this position.
And that's
And
actually
that's
just
just
going
going
to
to
be
be the game.
game.
Yep. And we see the double colorless.
Double, extra flip. But yes, that is going to be game. That turn one item lock just being too much for Alpacas to overcome in game 3. Super sad way for them to go out, but definitely well played by Mauro. I think those 3 games were played very, very well by them, and we will be seeing them in top 4.